Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to another edition of Talmbout Rasslin, right here on the Black Phoenix Network. I am your host, the untouchable J.R. Atkins, and this is your primary destination for wrestling conversation. As you can see, we are in a bit of a different environment, right? A little different look, a little different sound. Well, that is because if you tuned in, or if you took the second to actually watch this past Saturday's episode, it's not going to go towards the episode count. But if you watched this past Saturday's episode, you know I goofed because I recorded the entire pod. I got like an hour in and did it with no sound because my microphone setup was not set up the way it should have been set up. So didn't get to do it Sunday. I had other things to do. I actually had to work on getting my truck up and running again, which is where I'm doing this from today. So I figured on this Monday morning, why not drop this episode live? Well, not live. It's not live, but drop this episode from the car before I actually head into work, because why not, right? I would say I would keep it succinct. I'm going to try to cover everything that I covered on the one that I did that didn't have any sound, but I may have to condense it a little bit, may miss out on some stuff. So, as always, I always say, thank you again for tuning in, especially on this Monday. I'm sure you're all probably at work, so maybe you're watching this on a break or watching it, having your earpod. Who knows? I don't know where you're watching, but thank you for watching if you are watching, and thank you for tuning in for all of the Black Phoenix Network material, whether that be a What's Up Wednesday or these Talmbout Rasslin, and especially thank you for sticking around and giving me the grace when I have these hiccups and these, issues or things that I tend to do. So, as always, make sure you like, share, subscribe, make sure you follow, make sure you leave a rating, leave a review if you're listening on Spotify. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you follow Black Phoenix Brand on YouTube and the Talmbout Rasslin podcast. It has all of my music performances. If you go all the way back, it has a lot of my music performances. Most of my albums are actually uploaded to YouTube, and as well as here lately, all the Talmbout Rasslin episodes. So, and there'll be more as the brand expands. If you're here on Substack, of course, make sure you check out the What's Up Wednesday articles. I try to do those every Wednesday. Sometimes it's hit or miss. It's hit or miss sometimes. But we're here to talk about wrestling. That's what we do. So, again, I covered a lot of stuff Saturday with no sound. I did a little bit of WWE news, I reviewed basically Grand Slam and Dynamite. Now that it's Monday, in theory, I would have did Collision. I actually have not had a chance to watch Collision yet. I actually probably will do that while I'm at work. But, so we're going to cover a few things. And there's one thing that I really did want to get into. And I probably will spend more time on that. But we're going to start out. Get back to WWE. Again, I don't remember everything that I was talking about on WWE. Also, sidebar, if you see me looking off, there's a lot going on around me, so I'm just kind of keeping my eyes aware of everything going on. But nonetheless, starting with a little WWE news. So WWE Raw was in Memphis last Monday, a week ago. I had no intention of going at any point, just to be perfectly honest. You all know how I feel about WWE these days. As a company, as a product, I keep up with it because I'm a wrestling fan and I do want to know what's going on, especially heading into Mania season. But at the same time, there's so much that I'm not a fan of in WWE. And Bianca's nowhere to be found. So, I did get into some Elimination Chamber predictions. But again, I don't know how much of that I'm going to do here. But nonetheless, so like I said, Raw was in town Monday. No intentions of going. I did not go. Actually, I did tune in to watch maybe like the back half of the show. So I missed like the first half of everything that was going on, but I did see a little bit. I have the results pulled up here, so if you see me looking off, that's what I'm looking at now. I think I tuned in, oddly enough, like as soon as CM Punk started talking, which you know how I feel about CM Punk, then you know, whatever. There's a promo, he was talking, and Finn came out with Judgment Day, and they, did some stuff, whatever. Nothing really happened, they just talked. One note I did want to pull from that I mentioned was how one thing that I know that they've been doing here lately, it happened a lot with Cena last year. They've done it with other people with other shirts where certain shirts that the highest sellers have, those shirts will get put, they'll do like city specific versions of those shirts. The one from so CM Punk has those shirts now. He's the local, and those shirts are like local exclusive. So they've had them like with Stone Cold before. There's a Memphis 316 one, I think, somewhere. Cena kind of did it last year with all his appearances. They had different shirts representing kind of the local. He had an entire thing. It was like an entire set. The shirt, sweatbands, armbands, all of that, and a belt. So they definitely went hard on that with him, with that thing on him. So with Punk, Punk is the one now. And it's his Best in the World shirt that he kind of debuted at Money in the Bank 2011. But it's just in the colors now of whatever city he's in. And on the back it has such and such Best in the World or something like that. So with Memphis, it was obviously Memphis Best in the World. And it was, so I didn't really realize this. I saw it in Philly a few weeks ago when he was talking to Roman. Obviously, I don't watch weekly, so I didn't know what he's done since then. But so I tune in and I'm looking at the shirt. I'm like, oh, that's blue and gray. And if you know, that's the Memphis Tigers college, U of M Memphis Tigers college colors. Very interesting choice that he didn't go with the Grizzlies. We don't have a lot of teams, so it's either going to be, either the Tigers or the Grizzlies. And oddly enough, Tigers it's kind of a deep cut to know that we got that blue and gray thing going on. So that was cool. Instead of using the Grizzlies colors, I think that probably wouldn't have been as much of a contrast as you would like. They could have did like a navy and gold, but I'm glad that they did go with the blue and gray the way that they did. That was neat. That's a very random thing. It's a very random thing that I guess be covering, but it is absolutely true. Something that I appreciate. That, for how I feel about, and I probably wouldn't have got the shirt because Punk, how I feel about Punk these days, but it was intriguing. It was an intriguing tweet. I like that type of, you know me, I talked about those kind of things that I like, variants and callbacks and that kind of thing. So definitely did like that shirt. Also, excuse any noise here. Again, there are trucks going. There's a lot happening. A lot of trucks gonna be going back for me in the morning. So nothing happened with Punk. They did their little promo thing, and that was it. Move on. The rest of the show. So the rest I saw, they did number one contender for the Intercontinental Championship. It was El Grande Americano versus Penta. Penta got the win thanks to the original El Grande Americano. That is a match that is definitely going to happen at definitely need to cover that up some kind of way. There we go. That is a match that is definitely going to happen at WrestleMania. El Grande, the Battle of the Americanos is definitely going to be happening in that Mania. I would say how you're going to stretch it out, but it's not going to be hard. They're working on it now. I didn't see this thing with the New Day. I don't know why I didn't. I wasn't watching hard. The AJ Lee versus the AJ Lee Becky Lynch promo. Again, kind of tuned. Even though I was watching, I wasn't watching. So like I was just kind of tuned in, but like not tuned in. So the AJ Lee Becky thing, I kind of tuned in and out of that. But we're just building up to Elimination Chamber, which I think is ultimately going to build up to WrestleMania. And the main event, this is how much of that show actually. Again, it was like 3-4 segments that I actually watched. And then there was the main event, Javon Evans, Gunther, Dominic Mysterio, in an Elimination Chamber qualifier. This was actually a really good match. Gunther being Gunther, of course. Javon Evans. Kind of a, I won't say a rematch, obviously, because Dominic was in there, but not the first time that they have been involved. It was, of course, Gunther beat Javon in the John Cena, the Time Is Now tournament. Throw Dominic in there. Dominic took the pin, of course. So Javon is going to the chamber, and that is dope. Earlier in the night, this is the part that I missed because I had to go over Saturday when I was talking about this. I went over who was actually in the chamber, in both chambers, and who could possibly win. So in this one, what I missed from Monday night was the women's qualifier, which was Bayley, Natty, and Asuka. And it looks like Asuka got the win by submitting Bayley. So, oh, I didn't know this happened. Interesting. I didn't even see this anyway. This happened right before not too long before I tuned in. Adam Pearce is seen showing Obafemi a Raw contract. He's still deciding. As Femi is about to leave, Rusev enters the office and they have a tense stare down. Didn't know that happened. I actually thought Obafemi was officially on Raw, which makes sense because I was wondering why he was appearing on SmackDown so much here recently. He's actually had whole matches on. He's had matches more going on SmackDown than he's had on Raw. And I thought like they were loading up with Javon and Ova. But guess not. So I guess they're doing beating. I know Javon is definitely on Raw. And I thought, it's going to be interesting to have Javon and Ova on Raw, but apparently not. Go figure. And it seems more like he's going to be on SmackDown. However, if they're teasing this Rusev thing, that's just going to be a Raw match. He's going to, and he doesn't have to sign a contract for that. They're going to feed him. They're going to feed Rusev to Ova, which I shouldn't find as funny as I find it. But I kind of do. The AEW shield in me finds this hilarious. Because it's like, but I guess he's on TV. He's losing. He's not the Redeemer. But whatever. Hey, who am I? Who am I? So that's what happened on Raw. I didn't really watch SmackDown. I caught some of the highlights on YouTube, but I didn't really tune in. Actually, because I don't even have cable, so I don't have USA or anywhere to watch it. So I just caught the highlights on some of the highlights on YouTube. I saw the whole Cody Rhodes, Jacob Fatu, Drew McIntyre segment. I don't know how we're gonna get there, but we're definitely going into a triple threat at Mania between those three, and I'm not sure how you get there, but I definitely believe you do, which is huge for Jacob Fatu to go from United States Championship last year and now going into probably what's going to be a world title match this year at Mania. Big deal, very big deal. There was a Ilya Dragunov versus Tama Tonga match. Did I watch that? I don't think I watched that. No, I didn't watch that, as a matter of fact. I know I didn't. We're doing something with Tamatanga, though, it looks like. Because I don't know what, but it's like we're doing something with him soon. Getting a lot of these singles wins. A lot of backstage stuff with Shinsuke, kind of calling him out about following the in solo. So they about to. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's going to happen there. It's an interesting twist. Could be. Oh, what else did I see? I saw Jade come out and talk about whatever. She just want to face whoever. There was an interesting moment with Charlotte. So here's kind of some of the things I tuned into. There's an interesting moment with Jade and Charlotte. Again, because they've had several times where they've kind of teased like a stare off between them. And you kind of get like, okay, well, eventually you're going to do this match. But, so then they had their elimination qualifier. And it was Kiana James, Charlotte, and Nia Jax. And so you're kind of looking at it and thinking like, well, this could go one of two ways. It's definitely probably not going the third way. That is either going to be Charlotte or it's going to be Nia in that match. I think there are a lot of women in these teams, and I think those teams are going to be represented in the chamber, but like not with both people. And I'll get to some of that in a minute. But so I think it'll really be Charlotte or Nia. And with that stare off with Jade, it's kind of like, oh well, I wouldn't entirely hate Jade versus Charlotte. I don't want to see Charlotte anywhere near a title anymore. However, I wouldn't hate it. I wouldn't have a dog in the fight because, I'm not the highest on Jade either. But I wouldn't hate it. There are worse things that you could do. There are worse things that could happen at Mania. I would still want Jade to win because, again, I don't want Charlotte anywhere near a championship. But that could be a direction. That would mean she wins the Elimination Chamber, which I don't know if she's ever done before. It would be another notch in her cap, whatever. But that didn't happen. No, it turned out to be Kiana James of all people that came out with the dub on that one. She's not winning the chamber, but big win for her. I'm like, well, okay, that's neat. Not sure, didn't know we were doing a thing with her, but go figure. So there's that. And that wasn't the main event. Really? Okay. I guess not because I didn't watch it in order. I also watched the Damian Priest, Carmelo Hayes, Trick Williams triple threat, which was also a chamber qualifier. And Trick Willie comes out with the dub. Kind of interesting. Well, you know what? Because there's no investment in Melo, for real. I mean, even though he is the United States champion, so that's good. There's not like a real investment for them in Carmelo. So, I mean, I didn't expect much. Because it's like there's so much history there, right? And truth be told, I wouldn't hate if they did Carmelo versus Trick at Mania. If Carmelo needs a match, it'd be Carmelo's first one-on-one match. Trick's WrestleMania debut. He could win the United States Championship there. He needs something because he's over like Rover. And I will always say that the WWE is missing all the money. I don't know what you're going to do. You missing all the money not having Trick Williams in Memphis. Listen, let me tell you something. Because I don't think even any of his merch has whooped that Trick on it. You do a Memphis exclusive. Trick Williams whoop that Trick shirt. Have him come out of Memphis and have that on sale. Guaranteed sellout. Guaranteed sellout. You're leaving a bag. You wouldn't have to sell another shirt. That shirt alone would sell out in Memphis. I have no doubt in my mind. It's neither here nor there. You're leaving money on the table. But who are me? Who are me? So Trick Williams is in the Elimination Chamber. I don't think he's winning. Obviously, he's not winning either. But I think I watched a little bit of the Rhea Julia match, and Nia and Jax interfered. I think I saw that. Interesting. I didn't see it either. Aleister Black beat Randy Orton. That's a huge win. Oh no. Uh-oh, losing it. So as you can tell, I'm trying to block out the sun. So anyway, all of that kind of led me to kind of who is even in the chamber. So I have to go to Wikipedia for that one. Because I kind of made some predictions about Elimination Chamber and who's going to be in it. Let's see. Elimination Chamber 2026. Nope. Not Eliminators Tag Team, even though that would be interesting. Shouts out to that. There we go. All right. So in these chamber matches, let's look what we got. So thus far, for the women, we have Tiffany Stratton, Rhea Ripley, Alexa Bliss, Asuka, Kiana James, and one to be determined. And that match will happen tonight on Raw. Because Elimination Chamber, I think, is next Saturday, actually. It's not this Saturday. It's next Saturday, right? March. Is it March? Yeah, it's March. It says it right. I can literally just go look. Oh, no, it is this Saturday. So it's this Saturday night. I won't be watching unless I can find like a bootleg or something, but I probably won't even go through all that. Because I'm not going through the whole thing. I did that for the Rumble. While I go in and try to find a way to watch on ESPN. I'm not going through all that for this. Definitely not. And again, there's no Bianca. I'll come back to that in a second too. But tonight they're having the last two spots the last spot in the men and the women's on Raw tonight. So tonight you get Io Sky, Kyrie, and Raquel for that last spot. So again, we got Tiffany Stratton, Rhea Ripley, Alexa Bliss, Asuka, Kiana James, and either Io, Kyrie, or Raquel. Since we're talking Jade, and it's interesting that they're doing that this way for the women because Liv hasn't declared yet. That's an interesting wrinkle because normally this match is set for like whichever match the other person hadn't declared for yet. I don't recall who won the women's Rumble last year? Charlotte. So I think she had already chose Tiffany by the time Tiffany Stratton. I think she had already declared by the time Elimination Chamber rolled around, because I think with Bianca it was already set that she was heading towards whoever would Rhea or Io or whoever. Why we didn't just do Bianca versus Rhea last year? Neither. But whatever. Anyway, judging by who is in that match, or that match tonight and the match at Chamber, the only person I'm really looking at probably coming out with the dub is Tiffany Stratton. So we're probably doing a Tiffany Stratton Jade Cargill rematch at Mania. So that's a good look, because Out of those three, you got Io, Kyrie, and Raquel. So I mentioned earlier all these tag teams being represented, right? Tiffany's not in the tag team, and she hadn't really done anything since, coming back from the Rumble. She's kind of she's back, right? And she was was she the last or one of the? I think she was the last person eliminated in the Rumble. So, let me get it back. Last person eliminated in the Rumble, so she's probably that runner-up. Usually finds themselves in a title match as well. Happened with Cena last year. Happened, with other people in the past. Whoever's in the runner-up usually finds themselves like winning the chamber. A lot of times, not always, but a lot of times winning the chamber and then going on to challenge for the other title at Mania. So I can see that being the thing. Rhea makes sense, and a Jade Rhea match could be huge for Mania. However, right now they're the tag team champions, and I think they may keep that there for Mania, just because we've done so much with Rhea in the main event picture, and I think maybe they want to highlight something different here. I could be wrong. And then you still have her in a title match because she's the women's champion, right? So, tag team champion. So you can have her and Io. I think there's I think there's a chance to, like I said, all these tag teams represented. I don't think any of them are going to win in that. So you got Rhea, that kind of represents the Rio with Rhea and Io. They're probably going to defend those titles at Mania. You have Alexa Bliss, and I think her and Charlotte have something going on because, again, Charlotte's not in that match now, right? So I think Alexa and Charlotte are probably going to have something going on in Mania too. They may do a gauntlet thing like they did before at 37. Asuka, same thing with Kyrie. However, I could see Kyrie winning tonight and getting the spot just to eventually, that'll be how they eliminate Rhea, but then they'll do something like Kyrie does something to help eliminate Asuka, kind of the same way she did at the Rumble. And that'll be, kind of leading to something too. I'm not sure what, but something. Kiana just isn't going to win. Asuka isn't going to win. So I don't see Io winning. I could see Kyrie winning, and I could see Raquel winning. And here's an interesting thing you could do. They won't probably, but here's an interesting thing you could do that I don't think they've ever done before. There's a way to have, I think it would be really interesting to have Liv challenge like Stephanie and Raquel challenge Jade, or the other way around, and have both women in the Judgment Day challenging for the women's championships. They've never done that, that I can recall at least, to have like two people in a faction challenging for both titles. They've teased it. They teased it with like Triple H and Batista, because Triple H was the world heavyweight, and and trying to keep him from, he wasn't challenging, but there was the thought of having both titles on both brands. It turned out to be snake shit from Triple H, but go figure. I think that's an interesting premise though, to do something like that. They won't do it, but I think it would be interesting. So again, my pick there is Tiffany Stratton. I think we're just doing a rematch. I could be wrong. And I'll also go, if they go with like a Rhea Ripley, because they could, and we go with the Jade Rhea match for the title, which they could, then that would be huge. They're going to drop those tag titles before Mania. I definitely believe that. And then, as we're talking about it, for the men, we have Randy Orton, LA Knight, Cody Rhodes, Javon Evans, Trick Willie, and one to be determined, And tonight that match will be Bronson Reed, Jey Uso, and the original El Grande Americano. So just off top, let me go and say, you can count El Grande out because a new Grande Americano is going to cost him because as his payback for last week. Well, yeah, for last Monday. So count him out. Could be Jay. Could be Bronson. I also banked off of like the alignments here, because you got in the women's, you had Tiffany, it's kind of a baby face, Rhea's a baby face, Alexa's a baby face, Asuka's a heel, Kiana's a heel. That's a little balance because you could go 4 faces, 2 heels, or you can go 3 and 3. I don't think that'll make it doesn't really make that much of a difference in the chamber. But Jade's a heel, and the odds are that obviously it's going to be a baby face that's going to win, which is also why I say it could be either Tiffany or Rhea. The Raquel thing also doesn't make sense because Raquel's a heel. So it's going to be Tiffany or Rhea. I think it's Tiffany, but like I said, it could be Rhea. If they go with Rhea, it's like, oh, okay. So you want to capitalize on the money. With the men, so you got Randy Orton, babyface, LA Knight, babyface, Cody Rhodes, babyface, Javon Evans, babyface, Trick Williams is a heel. Definitely going to be another heel in that match. Which, again, Jey Uso's a tag team champion. Probably not going to be in there. Americano is he's a babyface kind of right now compared to the whatever. So, he's going to be out. He's going to lose due to the other Americano. So that leaves Bronson Reed. I'm pretty sure Bronson Reed's going to take that. And I'm almost certain. Yeah, he might not because he has to get up there. Because I can see him doing a tsunami off top of a pod, but probably won't be able to get up there. I already thought about it. He probably break the whole fucking ring. But anyway, so Randy Orton, LA Knight, Cody Rhodes, Javon Evans, Trick Williams, and I'm predicting Bronson Reed. It's Cody Rhodes. Everything is pointing to it being Cody Rhodes. Why wouldn't it be? Now, Drew came out and cost Randy a match off of SmackDown, which could point you in that direction. I just don't see it happening. You may get some stuff before Mania, but I don't see us going Randy. Because then, unless you do Randy Orton, Drew, and Mania for some reason, and then Cody and Jacob Fatu, just on a one-on-one match, maybe. I guess you could do that. Cody Rhodes is my pick because that seems to be exactly where we're going. We're very entrenched in the Jacob Fatu, Drew McIntyre, Cody Rhodes story. We're very entrenched there. I don't know how we get there, but that seems to be where we are. The backup there seems to be Randy. If in the same way that I'm saying it's either Tiffany Stratton or Rhea, it's either Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes is my pick. Randy Orton is like, I guess, my secondary pick. I won't even say a dark horse because he's not a dark horse, but definitely my secondary pick. So, be interesting to see where that goes. But who knows with this road to WrestleMania, because they're just kind of doing a little bit of everything and a little bit of nothing at the same time. So there's that. Let's move on, man, because whatever. Let's talk about some AEW. Let's talk about some real wrestling, all right? Okay, that's a bit much. I'm going to start with Grand Slam. Grand Slam was a really good show. I didn't make predictions because the show was actually in progress as I was recording on the last episode. So, cover it here. We had Jon Moxley versus Takeshita in a great match, of course. I mentioned watching Takeshita grow from where he was when he kind of first started to where he is now is one of the things I love about AEW is watching people ascend the way they are, watching them get better in the ring, watching them put on classics is again one of the joys of AEW for me. That match ended, Moxley and Takeshita ended in a time limit draw. And here's the thing of the greatness of Mox, and I've seen people talking about this. You can see Mox after the match, after the time limit draw, Mox goes to the referee. He can tell the crowd is kind of silent. They're like, oh, we didn't want that. So Mox goes to the referee, and you can see him telling them something, and he looks like he's kind of bitching about something, and he walks off, and he's all pissed. You know how Mox does. And then the ref goes to Takeshita, kneels down to him, and is kind of saying something to him. So next thing you know, Mox gets in Takeshita's face, kind of mushes him. Takeshita hits him with his finish. It's kind of like this isn't over, motions for the title. Mox definitely told him, hey, we got to get these people back. Tell him to hit his finish, send him home, or start him off. Because that was the first match of the night. If you lose them in the first finish of the night, you probably lose them for the rest of the entire night. So he had to do something to kind of give them a good spark to start the show. Wrestling Mind and Mox said, hey, let's do this. Nice audible in the ring. Didn't hurt anything. Sure, they were already planning on doing the rematch anyway, because it wouldn't have ended in a time limit draw otherwise. So fast forward real quick, because I want to kind of condense these a little bit. There will be a rematch at Revolution with no time limit, which is interesting because the entire premise of the Continental Classic or the Continental Championship is the Continental rules, and one of those rules is the time limit. It's almost like, I'm not entirely familiar on the history of the Pure Championship because they may actually have this, but like it's like having like an ROH Pure match, suspending one of the rules. And I guess you could do that because that's the point of having the rules, so that eventually you can throw out the rule for these special things. I don't know, but there's that. I'm going to do something else with my arm. There we go. Let's adjust. There we go. Hold you. Bear with me, people. Bear with me. So, that was cool. Next up, we had, for the Women's World Tag Team titles, Willow Nightingale versus Harley Cameron versus the Boobs of Wrath. The Babes of Wrath. Babes. Babes of Wrath, not the boobs. The babes. The babes with the boobs. Babes of Wrath. Babes. Okay, yeah. Took on Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford, who also are some. Anyway, Babes of Wrath get the win here in another really good match. Of course, they were going to get the win in Harley's hometown. That was a no-brainer. Doing anything else would be kind of silly. But yeah, let's try this. Bear with me, people. I'm working it out. You the paper. Yeah, let's go there. That's good. That works. I know. Technical difficulties galore. This is what happens. So, because the sun is moving, and as the sun moves, it gives them a shot. So I had to do some things different. Big win for the Babes of Wrath in Harley's hometown. Of course, that makes sense. After the match, we had Lena Cross. Now, I probably have to. Had Lena Cross making her debut. And then they didn't follow up on that on Dynamite. They mentioned it, but they didn't follow up on who she was. And I guess maybe the Australian crowd kind of know who she was. That's a common criticism for AEW, is that they debut people and they don't really tell you who it is. It is a thing that they do, but I'm all for letting it play out, and I guess it'll play out. Adding a third person to that trio is a very interesting dynamic, so I'm interested to see where it goes. But that was that. They also had a house show in Australia, and if I'm not mistaken, the Babes of Wrath took up. It may not have been. It may have been another team. But let me not say. They just defeated. They defended their titles in that house show as well. And on Dynamite, then Willow went on to defend the TBS championship in a fatal 4-way match with Megan Bayne, Marina Shafir, Mina Shirakawa as well. And Willow also came out on top in that match. So shout out to Willow. Willow had a huge week in terms of defending her. Let's get it back. Defending her championships. All right, come back here. So huge week for Willow in that regard. Get you back. There we go. Next we had the number one contender match: Hangman Adam Page, Andrade El Idolo. Andrade, huge since he's come back. Definitely in the title hunt. Definitely in the title picture. I think kind of a beautiful accident that Joe's injured. I think they just slotted Andrade right there. So I think a lot of these things that are supposed to be happening were supposed to be Joe, and they just slotted Andrade in the place of. And it's worked out. Andrade has been killing it. The matches have been amazing with Andrade. 2 back-to-back bangers with Hangman, and then with Swerve, and then with Hangman, and another one with 2 back-to-backs with Kenny, with Swerve, and then with Kenny, not Hangman, with Kenny, and then another one here against Hangman. However, this time Hangman gets the dub. Of course, he's heading to Revolution to face whoever the champion may be. We'll get to that in a second. Then we had the kind of hair versus hair match. Basically, whoever lost the fall would have their head shaved, with Orange Cassidy and Tony Storm versus Wheeler Yuta and Marina Shafir. As I think the only prediction I kind of made there was, if I didn't make it on the show, I definitely made it in my head, that Wheeler was definitely going to take the. I definitely know I said that Wheeler probably was going to be the one getting his head shaved because he looks so freaking mangy as is. And that Tony probably was going to be the one to pin him instead of Orange Cassidy. Just kind of made sense that would happen in the AEW way. So that's exactly what happened. Tony Storm pins Wheeler Yuta. Wheeler Yuta tries to leave. He's like, no, we're not doing this. He tries to leave. Mox comes out, and Mox is kind of like, hey, you lost. We stand on our word here. We stand on business. You lost. Go get your head shaved. Gets his head shaved. I think they revealed it on Dynamite. Well, not Dynamite, on Collision. He was on Dynamite, but he had a hood over his head. You couldn't really tell. I think they revealed it on Collision. I'm going to watch while I'm at work. Then we had the Kyle Fletcher, Mark Briscoe ladder match for the TNT Championship. And listen, you know how I said for several pay-per-views in a row, like I kept falling asleep on the Kyle Fletcher match? But I'm a Kyle Fletcher fan. I think his matches are great. I really do. I don't know why I keep falling asleep on the Kyle Fletcher matches. I did it again. Yeah, I fell asleep on it again. To be fair, I did not watch Grand Slam live, right? I watched it late at night, kind of late rather, on like Sunday maybe or something like that. And I missed it. And I hadn't gone back to watch it yet. I saw the beginning, and I saw the last thing I saw was Mark Briscoe getting pushed off a ladder and Kyle Fletcher getting the title. Literally the end. Saw all the highest spots. I'm like, oh, didn't know that was the thing. So I definitely need to go back and watch that one as well. Sorry. And I like Kyle Fletcher matches. I think his matches are really great. I don't know if it's the positioning in the show or what it is, but it's always the point where I nod out is on a Kyle Fletcher match. Can't make it make sense. Anyway, then we have our main event, MJF against Brody King. Very hard hitting match. Brody King looked like he belonged in the main event scene for sure. But of course he fell to MJF. Big thing there. Afterwards we get Hangman coming out with a contract. He signs the contract and we officially have pretty much MJF versus Hangman at Revolution. But wait, there's more. So, that was Grand Slam, which leads us into Dynamite. Open that up. Dynamite is anchored by the main event, Kenny Omega versus Swerve Strickland, which I did not understand why we didn't just do that at Revolution, but now I do understand. But we'll get there too. Now, so we open up with Mox versus Mark Davis, of course a hard-hitting match with Dunkzilla and Mox beating the crap out of each other, because of course they would. Why wouldn't they? Mox gets the win, of course, by submission. But, you know, Mark Davis definitely looking good. There was a Young Bucks, where there was an FTR segment. They came out talking, and something happened with the Bucks. I kind of walked away. I think I went to the bathroom or something at that point. I think the Bucks came out and like super kicked. Apparently they super kicked FTR and they super kicked Stokely. So we're getting that match at Revolution as well. We discussed that before. Like, didn't really need that, but okay, whatever. Before we mentioned the Willow retained her title at the TBS Championship in that Fatal 4-Way. Then we have the MJF Hangman face-off, which I mentioned. There's more. So it's basically both of them admitting how much they hate each other. You know, Hangman is like, look, the thing I hate most about you is that you remind me of me. There's nobody that's more like me. Your desperation, the same thing with me. With two sides of the same coin kind of thing. And he's like, you know what? Let's end this once and for all. This can't be a regular match. So let's pick a stipulation. The way I understand this, I think, is that Hangman picks a stipulation, MJF picks a stipulation, and the fans decide which one they go with. I'm assuming. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how they're going to decide that. The way it sounds is like that's the thing. Hangman kind of calls this shot. He's like, you know, they know what they want. They know, you know what type of match it is. MJF's like, no, we're going to do a regular match. I'm not doing this freak shot sideshow shit with you. We're going to have a regular match. So Hangman sweetens the pot. He said, I tell you what. You accept this, and I'll make this deal with you. If I don't win that match, then I will never. And I'm like, oh no. Challenge for the AEW World Championship. I said, oh no. No. Please say, for as long as you're the champ. For as long as you're the champion. For as long as you're the champion. Please say for as long as you're the champion. And he goes, ever again, for as long as I live. And I was like, damn it. We're doing a Cody. MJF's like, oh, well, since you say that, absolutely. But I'm gonna need a week to think about my stipulation because I don't shoot before I think. So then Hangman's like, well, I know my answer. Give me Texas Death. So here's the problem. Kind of a problem, but may not be a problem. That stipulation is always kind of problematic because it feels kind of, it feels inevitable sometimes. However, when Cody did it, because you figured Cody was going to win against Jericho once he said that, but then he lost. And then he never challenged for the World Heavyweight Championship. And the only reason, I guess we never got any kind of next level there was because he left. But people have always said, I saw somebody mention, like, the reason that was an issue was not because he said it and it pigeonholed him. Because the easy way out of that is just is for that person to turn heel and just go back on their word. And then and then you're past it. I guess there are other ways out of it, but I guess that's the easiest way out of it. And the issue there was that Cody didn't want to turn heel, and that's where the whole problem came from. That makes sense. But it's not. I mean, and that could be the case with Hangman. But right now, he's at this point, he's the babyface, especially after the end of the night. I'll get to that in a minute. So he's the babyface. You're not turning him heel anytime soon. But then you completely take the main character out of the title picture for the foreseeable future. That would be an interesting choice. I wouldn't be mad at Max having a short reign, but also, kind of why? I don't know. But again, I guess we could get back to Hangman as champion though, because maybe this was just a hiccup. Maybe him losing was the hiccup, and we're getting back to where we left off with Hangman. This was kind of an interruption of his second reign into his third. Maybe that's the thing. I'm not sure. If we go Texas Death, again, that's a very interesting dynamic. And Hangman could win. And if it's Texas Death, I think there's a better case for him winning than losing. Here's my logic. And I broke this down a lot, probably deeper Saturday with no sound. But we've seen him in Texas Death matches at least 3 or 4 other times, right? There's one against Mox. And that first one was just kind of it was like personal, but it wasn't like personal. But it was like, we having a feud, we fight, and there's a matter of respect. There was a thing there. It was brutal, but it wasn't like personal brutal. That's the best way I could put it. Not in the way that it would become. I think he had one against Lance Archer. That might have been the first one, but I'm not sure. Then, of course, there's the infamous one with Swerve, which was very personal. And honestly was the beginning of the devolving of Hangman's mental state, basically. This is where we started getting into the heel version of Hangman. Because he was broken from the Swerve issue. And then, of course, the fans kind of turned on him for that. Then finally we got the redemption of Hangman and Texas Death with Mox, which was very different than the first one, and actually very different from the Swerve match, because it wasn't as personal, but it was professionally, I think, a necessary match, or maybe professionally personal, where he needed to win the championship, and that would be the way to do it with the Death Rise and everything like that. But this match would be something very different now that we've introduced the idea of him not challenging for the title again if he loses, because now he's fighting for something completely different. The desperation is at an all-time high. It's sink or swim, win or go home forever type thing. He's fighting to maintain any chance at winning the championship again. So that is an interesting wrinkle that I'm interested to look at. I'm not sure. We'll see what happens Wednesday, but I'm very intrigued in that. I don't like the "I'll never challenge again" statement, but we'll see where it goes. Next up we had Orange Cassidy and Tomohiro Ishii versus Gay Kid Clark Connors. We got the Conglomerations with the win, thanks to Darby. We had the debut of the Brawling Birds, Alex Windsor and Jamie Hayter, to go on Viva Van and Becca. Squash match. Brawling Birds get the dub. You can tell they're working on their tag team chemistry together. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic once they get it together. The tag team division is definitely growing by leaps and bounds. They definitely seem to be investing in that a lot. Now you got the Brawling Birds. You have Boozer Wrath, Mega Bad, Base Wrath. I did that. I'm thinking about it this time. Base Wrath, obviously as champions. Mega badge. You could always do Tony and Mina again. Then you have Brawlenberg. I might have said that already. And the newly signed Inspiration / the Iconics, who have not debuted on TV, but they were at that house show in Australia, which is where we found out they were signed. So that tag team division is definitely leaps and bounds. So we'll see. We had a promo segment with Chris Allen, who is apparently not cleared to wrestle after that strap match, but Thunder Rosa is back, and she is cleared to wrestle, so she's going after the Triangle of Madness in her place. Interested to see where that goes as well. Next up, we had a banger of a match between Kevin Knight and Beast Mortos. Kevin Knight, I think, is another one of those people who I'm enjoying watching ascend, waiting to see him flesh his character out more, and really, more than flesh the character out, really understand who Kevin Knight is in AEW. It almost feels he's a little bit in that space where Swerve was when he was with Keith Lee. Though I think he came into AEW with an understanding of who and what he wanted to be. But I feel like he's in that space where Swerve was with Keith when he was tagging with Keith Lee. Once he gets the feel for who Kevin Knight is, the Jet, what that really looks like, and get that comfort level that you see some of these guys get who've been here for a while, doing it for a while. Once he gets that confidence level to understand exactly who he is and what he's doing and why he's doing it, I think we're going to see Kevin Knight definitely take a leap as well. Because he has all the tools, absolutely. He just, like I said, I think it's just a comfort level thing. Once he gets it, we're going to see. We're going to see. All right? And finally, we had main event, Kenny Omega versus Swerve Strickland. Dave Meltzer gave this 5 1/4 stars. It's a TV match. Enough said. Right? Enough said. This match was everything it needed to be, everything you hoped it would be. And as much as I wished it was at Revolution, and I didn't understand why we were doing it on main TV, just on TV, free TV, still was a banger. And so I understand now why we didn't do it at Revolution. Apparently Kenny was already penciled in not to wrestle at Revolution for one reason or another. I can think they say he may actually make an appearance, but he's already scheduled to not wrestle at Revolution. I'm assuming it's a preparation thing. I'm not really sure why or what it is, but he's already been scheduled to not be wrestling at Revolution, so I guess that's why we're doing it now. Ultimately, I think it worked out because I didn't know we were going to do the thing that we were doing. So, this match is great. I had to go back and rewatch it. I mentioned that I would do that Saturday when I recorded this originally. That part of doing this. I hope they're not coming back. They'll be still coming at the top. That part of I lost my train of thought. Yeah, I mentioned that I watched it the first time under the guise that I watched it the first time thinking that I watched it wondering why we were doing this on TV and we're probably going to do it again in Revolution. And it kind of affected how I watched the match and what I felt about it. In hindsight, I had to go back and watch it again. And watching it again, I kind of, okay, now that I know he's not going to Revolution, now I can watch it as the match it is. It's that much, and I said I would watch it again, and I did that much better the second time around because, like, oh, now I get it. It was the match. We are going to get it again, but now the dynamic's different. So again, makes sense. Swerve gets the win after some dubious tactics, including pulling Aubrey into the way of a V trigger, which It's like, oh, are we getting a little heelish. Getting a little heelish here, aren't we? And we are. Wins the match, goes to attack Kenny afterwards, hangs him with his chain, then hits him with a vertebraker through the table. And he's got the crazy eyes. He's got the crazy eyes and he's yelling, I need this. I needed this. I needed this. Which harkens back to the beginning of the show, because they did one of those promos. You know, they have the promos of all the matches from people who are going to be in the match. And his was just him saying, I need this. I need this. I need this. And we end the show with him saying, I need this. I needed this. I needed this. Heel Swerve is back, ladies and gentlemen. And look, I ain't mad at it. I ain't even mad at it. I ain't mad. That's definitely my boss. So yeah. So so we got Heel Swerve back in the building, back in the game. Yes, sir. And you know, sorry. So we got Heel Swerve back in the game. Things are going to get interesting. We're going to get a rematch eventually. I'm not sure what that means for what Swerve is going to do. I mean, what Swerve is going to do at Revolution, but it's not going to be Kenny. So we'll see what happens. I mean, you got a few weeks to come up with a program. I think, yeah, you got at least two or 3 weeks to come up with a program for what he's gonna do at Revolution. I'm interested to see. And speaking of Swerve, this is the last thing we're gonna talk about. I'm gonna get out of here because I definitely now have to go do what I'm supposed to be doing. A story came out last week that kind of had the internet in an uproar. And that story was basically BET Music dropped a list of their top 10 black wrestlers of 2025. And this list had people in an uproar. And, you know, so the first thing is the list had people in an uproar. Lists always have people in an uproar. So this is no different. But the problem I had here is you can kind of look at this list and tell that it's ridiculous. And I think the fact that it was ridiculous is what had people in an uproar. So that led me to go, there has to be some logic behind this. It couldn't just be a list for list's sake. And I can find no evidence of BET Music, BET, anything actually releasing this list on Instagram, TikTok, anywhere on not TikTok, Instagram, X, anywhere on the internet that this list was mentioned. So I'm doing research. I'm digging. Where did this come from? And why is it being so aggregated the way that it is? Because there are legit sites, well, kind of legit or supposedly legit, who are aggregating this news story. Because it's probably a lot of clicks, right? Only to find that the furthest back that I can find it, and the most original thing I can find, is a parody account called PW Centel, or Pro Wrestling Centel. Now, sports fans probably know there is an NBA Centel, which is, again, a parody account, and they just like make ridiculous headlines, you know. And the idea is, the reason it's Centel is, I want to say there's like an NBA Central that's actually legit, and so Centel is the parody version of that. And a lot of people get them confused because they don't, reading is fundamental. So it's the same thing with this. On this PW Centel, there are all other kinds of different ridiculous headlines. This is where I was at. So everybody's accrediting it to BET Music because that's what they said, which could be offensive in and of itself, but that's neither here nor there. Because why would BET Music be posting that anyway? Why wouldn't it at worst but just be BET? Neither here nor there. Again, that's kind of offensive in and of itself. But they posted this list, and everybody's kind of taking it at face value. Aggregated it. It's caused all kind of discourse. I am, until further proved, this is a fake list. It was made for parody purposes, and everybody is taking it and running with it. If nobody else has reported that, you heard it here first. It is a parody list from PW Centel on X. You can go verify if you want. So anyway, I'll read the list because there is some merit to the list, and then it gets ridiculous. And there's some change. So I'm going to go over the list, and I'll probably make a few little changes. And this was a Wednesday. This Wednesday will probably be my version of what this list actually would look like. So the list is, at number 10, you had Shelton Benjamin. Number 9, Leon Slater. Number 8, Javon Evans. Number 7, Ricochet. So far, so good. Number 6, QT Marshall. That's where it gets ridiculous. Number 5, Bobby Lashley. Number 4, Naomi. Number 3, Obafemi. Number 2, Mercedes Monet. And number 1, Swerve Strickland. The list isn't bad. The list is not bad. I'm not sure the order is right, and I'm not sure. There are some people who were left off. I don't think Oba. I don't know. Oba didn't seem to be on that list at first, but maybe he was. No, Trick wasn't on this list at first. That's who it was. Okay. And he's not on there now. There are a couple people who are not on there. Trick not being on there is definitely egregious. And if we're talking 2025, Trick had a hell of a 2025. And if you're saying Javon is on there and Oba's on there, but not Trick, that's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Because Trick debuted on main roster, I think, prior to the Rumble, maybe. It might have been in 2025. I have to look and see. I think he debuted prior to the... Matter of fact, I think he definitely did. Now, Javon may have been a 2025 6 signing. Trick may not have started appearing until 2026 as well. Or in the 2025. Either way, they were tearing it up in NXT. So, not having them on this list, I think, is egregious. Well, not having Trick on that list is egregious. He probably... If you had Trick in the place of QT Marshall, this would have been a serious list. At best, because it's subjective, right? That at least would have been legit. At the very least. But, whatever. Swerve at number 1, I kind of can understand. But he really didn't do... He had a great 2025, but he didn't do like a lot in 2025. He wasn't even there. He wrestled from Dynasty to Forbidden Door. So maybe those 3. No. Yeah, no. Yeah. He had the match at Dynasty. He returned at Revolution. No. He actually had a match at Revolution. He wrestled from Revolution. So he was there for most of the year. He had the match at Revolution against Ricochet for the number 1 contendership, if I'm not mistaken. Challenged Mox at Dynasty. Lost. Had the Anarchy in the Arena at Double or Nothing. And they won. That was a good moment. But the next thing, All In, match of the year for me at All In, that was great. And then Forbidden Door against Okada, good match, but he was injured and he was out. Then came back end of the year. He came back at Full Gear, had the match at World's End. So he had a decent 2025, but it wasn't like great. He had some, banger matches. And like I said, and a match of the year contender, but I don't know if I would have gave him top spot of 2025. Honestly, of that list, it's probably Mercedes. Naomi, I think, at least was starting to have a much bigger year. Pregnancy kind of derailed that, unfortunately, and I hate to say it like that, but it's kind of true. She did have a really good year up until, she was there until what? Kind of right after SummerSlam, give or take, a few weeks after SummerSlam. So the better part of the year she was there, she had, and they're probably in the same time frame as Swerve, if I'm being honest. So I can see that. I don't know if Lashley would be there, but he and Shelton Benjamin were tag team champions. They probably should be right there together in terms of their 2025. And if I'm being honest, Shelton probably had better moments than Bobby Lashley did, because Shelton had more matches to be great. The majority of 2025, they were tied up in that feud with Ricochet and the Demand. So go figure. They spent half the year as tag team champions, and the second half of the year feuding with the Demand. So Leon Slater could probably be a little higher as Javon Evans. Ricochet deserves to be higher too, and Trick deserves to be on this list. So you'll see me. I probably will do my own list, as a lot of people have done, out of this. But I did want to report that list is fake. My list will not be. So, go figure. And it'll probably look a lot like this one. Ordered maybe different. Few different people in there. But, for all the rigmarole, not a real list. Now, I have to go do my thing that I do every day, which is not be here talking to you guys. We hadn't got to the monetizing point yet. Neither nor there. I enjoy talking to you. And I had to get this off because you deserved it. I promised I would. I didn't do it yesterday, but I'm doing it now. Thank you for tuning in. Sitting with me, listening to all the nonsense and me looking all over the place while I'm sitting in my car. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Talmbout Rasslin. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Make sure you do all the things that you do. You guys know what you do. Thank you for that. Thank you for being the greatest. Thank you for bearing with me and giving me the grace. Like, share, subscribe, leave a rating, leave a review. Follow on Substack. Follow on Spotify. Follow on YouTube. And until next time, I am your host, the Untouchable J.R. Atkins. This has been Talmbout Rasslin. This has been the Black Phoenix Network. And until next time, we are out.